Yeah, absolutely. So, as Snedds just quite rightly said there, he gave me Hi Ren by Ren. He also recommended that I watch the video as well, so I did. So this single was released on the 15th of December last year. It's a bit of a long one, just under 9 minutes long. As Ned said, Ren, real name Ren Erin Gill, is a Welsh musician, singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, rapper, poet, producer. He was also formerly part of the indie hip-hop band Trick the Fox and The Big Push. It's worthwhile kind of delving into the video itself because I believe it's kind of went viral, to be honest, in the last few months, and quite rightly so. It's pretty phenomenal, to be fair. I mean, it's a performance piece of sorts. You could imagine that up on stage. I was saying to Kerry, in terms of the video, the lyrics and everything, you could imagine that being critiqued within kind of like English classes, or at university for years to come. But just to tell you guys a little bit more about it, for those who haven't seen it already, the video opens with Ren wearing a standard issue hospital gown, holding a guitar. He's kind of wheeled into this dilapidated room with the paint's kind of peeling off the walls, and it's pretty horrible looking. So he's wheeled into this room by in a wheelchair by a nurse wearing a kind of pig mask, which I don't think's kind of really explored any further within the video itself. But he's then kind of left and kind of placed in between two lamps. So there's one kind of larger freestanding lamp to I suppose it would be the right of him, but as you're watching it's to the left of him, and a smaller lamp which is kind of sat on top of an antique looking kind of table which is set a wee bit further back into the room. The song itself opens with Ren playing a kind of classic flamenco style guitar riff. Then at around the 1 minute mark he starts almost howling, which I think some listeners might find a bit jarring and maybe a bit off-putting. And to be fair, on my first listen I was a wee bit like, what's this about? But the payoff really comes when he starts singing. He kind of sings. At first, in the video, he's kind of facing the smaller lamp and kind of delivering a soliloquy to that, and then turns to face the larger freestanding lamp and delivering another soliloquy to it. And it's a kind of back and forth. And initially, he's kind of talking about kind of moving on and feeling as if he's in a kind of better place, kind of talking about how his music has been a source of healing and recovery and been a kind of positive influence for him. And as the song progresses and the video progresses, you quite quickly realise that there's this kind of fight between good and evil, the kind of light or dark side of his kind of personality or his mental health. And when the light side of Ren seems to be winning, as it were, the dark side that's how I'm going to describe it, I think. Just kind of hits back with this pretty amazing. I've actually written down the lyric here, but I think you really need to kind of see it yourself or listen to it yourself to get the kind of full impact of it. But it's pretty amazing. It kind of gave off some proper kind of sympathy for the devil, Exorcist vibes. This dark side kind of talks about being created at the dawn of temptation. He's the snake Canadian. He is the reason for treason, beheading all kings. I'm sin with no rhyme nor reason, son of the morning, Lucifer. It goes on, and it's a pretty epic moment. And all the while, this small lamp, that one that's kind of set that wee bit further back into the room, is just kind of blinking on and off in kind of more frenzied fashion as kind of time goes on. But then, there's this really uplifting moment in the song where Ren kind of takes control. He kind of counters this with his own argument and this kind of rousing sentiment that he will kind of overcome the forces of evil, as it were. He kind of stands up rather than sitting in the wheelchair, because obviously, like, I suppose if you're talking about, I don't know, symbolism, wheelchair is, to use a wheelchair as a kind of symbol for disability and illness, as it were. And he kind of stands up and takes charge and is taking control. And there's one lyric in that and that bit in the song that I really quite liked about he's, you know, gonna inspire the meek to be strong and kind of take control, and then there's this kind of return to that kind of howling at the beginning, or that we kind of heard at the beginning, before Ren then delivers this other soliloquy, this time kind of facing the camera and addressing the listener directly, talking about his own struggles with autoimmunity, illness and psychosis. And if you do a bit of reading on Ren, all that's quite well documented. He's a big advocate for mental health and for people who struggle with autoimmunity diseases. He, I think, was initially diagnosed with, I want to say, bipolar affective disorder and psychosis, and possibly even chronic fatigue syndrome in his early 20s, and then it wasn't until he went over to Brussels that he found out that he actually had Lyme disease, and that was kind of the source of all these problems, and that's something that he continues to kind of struggle with today. The lyrics are really poignant. That soliloquy at the end is really poignant, really emotive. Having worked, well, I do work in mental health. For me in particular, that lyric that says that there are no real winners or losers in psychological warfare, but there were victims and students, and this idea that kind of, you know, it's not a case of people winning, losing, or recovering or failing, or whatever. It kind of exists in this kind of pendulum, and there's this kind of eternal dance that they're all doing. He talks about it, kind of what separates us from angels and demons. It makes us all human, and that's something that we should never forget, because, you know, in the middle of all these kind of struggles, there's somebody at the very bottom of it, and that should be appreciated and nurtured, I suppose.
I think it's in that kind of spoken word bit in the sort of last minute of the song. I think he talks about this sort of swing, the back and forth swing of the pendulum, and there's a lot of that in the song. The bit where it's kind of the light and the dark kind of battling back and forth, as you were. There's that swing, and there's the two characters. There's him, and then there's the dark side, and each of those characters, a different type, like, guitar line is played, and it jumps back and forth between sort of Ren, sort of normal speak singing, almost a bit like Jamie T, and then it jumps back to this more grotesque dark character that sounds like, you know, something out of the League of Gentlemen, or like, you know, like the song Stan, when, you know, when Stan becomes even more and more like frenzied towards the end of that song. There's that kind of vibe there, and yeah, I think the kind of that sort of hooting falsetto, I don't know how exactly to describe that he does right at the start of the song, feels quite like tortured. I think it's like you said, I think that'll put some people off right at the start, and it did put me off a little bit when I first heard it, but I think it works really well in that it feels quite like pained in the way it's delivered. And it, like you say, it's performance art. I think it's the same thing we were talking about with the opening track on that Muddy album. You can see it, you know, you can see it as it's not just a musical
piece of theatre.
It's a whole, it's a piece of theatre, and really, really impressive. Some of the lines on it, and it's really funny as well. Like, there's a bit where he's talking about being really, really hopeful about his music and thinking, you know, he could really do things, and then the dark part of him comes back and he's like telling him he's full of shit, like, where's your top 10 hit, where's your interview with Oprah, like talking about just being a kind of Plan B or an Eminem copycat. And it, you know, it's really harsh put downs, but there's a lot of humour in there.
And ridiculing these songs and reducing them to the likes of I can't say it, but she sells seashells down by the seashore, like just silly little rhymes.
Yeah, and I think it. I haven't really listened to the song without the video, to be honest. I think the video it's just like a complete package for me.
Yeah, I actually listened to the song first without the video. Yeah. And he wasn't what I expected. I don't know what I expected to see, you know, when I went to watch the video. But yeah. I think you're right. I think they do come as a complete package. And he's released a couple of I think he's released a few singles since then. And again, I think there's a similar amount of kind of thought went into the videos that accompany them as well.
Yeah, I think there's the whole thing with the hospital gown and stuff like that is a theme through some of those videos as well, because I don't remember the song name, but I'm sure there's one where he's like sat at a table almost being interrogated, and he's wearing this hospital gown.
Yeah, because I think it's Sick Boy, yeah. And Illest of Our Time. I think Illest of Our Time is the latest one.
Yeah, there's an older song called, I think it's older. It's called "The Tale of Jenny and Screech," and it's again quite theatrical. It's just him with an acoustic guitar. This time he's just like playing it in an alleyway, and it's a sort of storyteller with the acoustic guitar kind of style thing. Really, really cool. What did you give this then?
Has to be a 10 out of 10, man.
Yeah,
has to be.
I was hoping you would say that, because that's what I've given it as well. Yeah, there's not much more that we can say about it. It's just kind of a genius piece of performance, music, storytelling. You know, really engrossing, dark, funny, uplifting. Just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, okay. Well, that goes into the Hall of Fame. Still don't have any kind of buzzer or fireworks or even like
the balloons with the dead clown.
A little dinger, like a wee bell to ding or something. Don't need any cheap gimmicks here.
Nah, I actually got one of those little bells from somebody for my 30th. No idea why. No idea why.
When you turn 30, you're just like senior citizen, so everyone's going to be running after you like, when you ding your bell.
And when I'm gone, maybe I'll be remembered for doing something special with myself. That's why I don't think that we should talk, man. Cause when you're with me, it never seems to help. I'm not leftover dinner, I'm not scraps on the side. Oh, your music is thriving, delusional guy. Where's your top 10 hit? Where's your interview with Oprah? Fuck you, I don't need you, I don't need to hear this. Cause I'm fine by myself, I'm a genius. Son of the morning, Lucifer, Antichrist, father of lies. Mustopheles, truth in a blender, deceitful pretender. So coward the man I've become when I sing from the top of my lungs. That I won't retire, I'll stand in your fire, inspire that me to be strong. When I was 17 years old, I shouted out into an empty room, into a blank canvas, that I would defeat the forces of evil.
It's not finished. It's finished.